Silent Hill 2 Remake brings a fresh and thrilling take on a classic, diving deep into the heart of survival horror with a modern twist. This remake isn't just about revamping visuals, it's about creating that same sense of dread and immersion that made the original such an unforgettable experience. The over-the-shoulder camera shifts the combat experience, giving you that intense, up-close feeling when you're facing off against the twisted horrors lurking in the fog. The gameplay has been fine-tuned to keep things fresh, with a more dynamic combat system that lets you take on the enemies with an improved arsenal of weapons. Whether you prefer blasting through foes with a firearm or getting up close with melee weapons, there's a real satisfaction in every encounter. The new camera angles make things more intense, adding a layer of tension when you're exploring tight corridors or encountering something unexpectedly horrifying. The environments feel alive and chilling. With each corner you turn, there's this lingering sense of what's around the next one. It's that perfect balance between exploration and panic. You'll want to search every nook and cranny, uncovering hidden secrets, items, and more. This isn't a linear experience, it's a game that lets you really get immersed in its world. What makes it even better is how the game's choices matter. Depending on your actions, you'll experience different outcomes, encouraging you to replay the game and see what else you can uncover. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. This time, we get to team up with Chloe Fraser, a fan-favorite treasure hunter, as she's joined by Nadine Ross, a mercenary from Uncharted 4. What's cool about this duo is how their dynamic grows throughout the game, making every moment feel personal and compelling. Right from the start, the game does an excellent job of blending action and exploration. You'll be jumping, climbing, and swinging through environments that are both breathtaking and filled with surprises. Whether you're sneaking past enemies, solving puzzles, or just soaking in the scenery, there's always something happening. And let's be honest, finding those hidden gems and taking on the challenges feels incredibly rewarding. Combat in this game is tight, smooth, and offers a lot of ways to approach situations. You can go in guns blazing, but it's also super satisfying to sneak around, avoiding detection and using stealth. The addition of silenced weapons adds a cool strategic layer, especially when you're trying to outsmart the enemy rather than outgun them. It really lets you choose your playstyle, whether you're all about action or more about being the sneaky hero. Now, the environments themselves are like playgrounds for these two characters. There's this great balance of open spaces where you can really explore and take your time, and then there are these narrow, tense spots that make your heart race. It's a mix that keeps things fresh, so you're never stuck in one mode for too long. The Last of Us is a game that has pretty much set the bar for how video games can deliver unforgettable experiences. If you're into those intense, edge-of-your-seat moments, but also love getting deep into the character's emotions, this one hits the sweet spot. You'll find yourself in a world where the stakes are high, the action's thrilling, and the relationships are just as complex as anything you'll encounter in a good movie or TV show. Now, gameplay, it's not just about running around shooting things, though you'll definitely be doing your fair share of that. The best part, you're constantly scavenging, hunting for resources, and crafting items to get by. You'll be crafting everything from health kits to Molotov cocktails, which are super useful when you find yourself in tight spots. It's not about mindless action. You'll find yourself thinking on your feet, balancing combat and stealth, which makes the whole experience feel super rewarding. One of the coolest parts is how you'll navigate through these crazy, post-apocalyptic environments. There's something oddly satisfying about exploring abandoned buildings, figuring out where you're supposed to go, and piecing together what happened before the world turned upside down. It's like being dropped into a world that's both familiar and totally alien at the same time. And while you're out there in the wild, you won't always be alone. You've got companions who are not only helpful in a pinch, but also bring a lot of personality to the mix. Black Myth: Wukong. All right, let's talk about Black Myth: Wukong. It's one of those games that really lets you get into the action, and it's got this dynamic combat system that's just fun. Like, you don't just swing around a weapon, you're learning how to use it in all these creative ways. You've got this magical staff that can shrink and grow depending on what you're doing, and it feels like there's always a new move or combo to try out. The staff is flexible, no pun intended, and it's one of those things that makes the combat feel fresh every time. And let's be real, if you're a fan of action RPGs, Black Myth: Wukong has got your back. You're not just button mashing your way through enemies. There's actual strategy behind how you approach battles. You've got this little resource meter that fills up as you attack, dodge, or just keep your rhythm going, and when it's full, you get to unleash some heavy attacks. It's kind of like a reward system for staying on top of the action. Plus, the way the stamina works, you've got to manage it wisely. Too much sprinting or dodging, and you'll be caught out of breath right in the middle of a boss fight. And that's when things get tricky. Now, add in some magic, because why not? You've got these cool spells and transformations at your disposal, and no, we're not talking about the usual fireball type of magic here. You can shapeshift into all sorts of creatures, each with its own abilities and health pool. It keeps the gameplay interesting, and it's fun to switch things up depending on the situation. Far Cry 5 takes you straight into the heart of a sprawling open world. And let's be honest, it's the perfect place to get lost in. The whole vibe is about chaos, freedom, and just doing things your way. You'll find yourself in Hope County, Montana, where you get to go wild in a world that's ripe for exploration, filled with opportunities for combat, adventure, and a fair share of mayhem. One of the most exciting parts is the freedom. You can jump into whatever action you want, whenever you want. No strict order of missions, no linear paths, just a massive world to explore and conquer. From driving around in muscle cars to soaring through the skies and plains, everything feels like it's in your hands. And you're never really alone in this journey. You've got your own little squad of guns for hire, these NPCs who join you for the ride, adding an extra layer of fun to the game. Whether it's a sniper or a heavy hitter, having these allies around helps you take down foes and explore the world with a little backup. Speaking of backup, there's this awesome animal companion system. Forget just being human in this world. You can recruit animals like Boomer, a loyal dog, or even Cheeseburger the bear. They're not just cute sidekicks either. They're tough, and they help in combat. It's like your own personal zoo that gets the job done. Who wouldn't want a bear charging into battle, right? The gameplay itself keeps things fresh. Dying Light. Dying Light is one of those games that just throws you into the action and keeps things exciting from start to finish. Picture this. You're in a city overrun by zombies, and instead of just trudging along with basic survival mechanics, you're literally running and leaping around the place like a parkour master. It's like they took everything you love about open world games, threw in some seriously awesome mobility, and then added a twist with the zombies. One of the coolest parts? The day-night cycle. During the day, the infected are sluggish, and it's kind of chill. You can take your time to explore, collect supplies, or just mess around with the parkour system. But when night falls, things get intense. Zombies turn into something way more terrifying. If you're not careful, they'll come after you with a vengeance. It's the kind of switch that makes you rethink everything, and that makes the gameplay way more dynamic. And then there's the combat. Dying Light doesn't just give you some generic weapons, you get a whole range of them to play with, from melee stuff like pipes and bats to more advanced weapons you can craft or upgrade. The crafting system is pretty slick, and it really keeps you on your toes since you're always on the lookout for materials. There's something super satisfying about smashing a zombie skull with a bat you just crafted from scrap parts you found lying around. You can also team up with friends and take on the challenges together. It's a total blast. Devil May Cry 5 is an absolute blast. If you're a fan of fast-paced action, this game just might be the perfect fit. It brings everything you love about stylish, over-the-top combat and cranks it up to 11. From the moment you start, you're jumping straight into a world full of insane battles, jaw-dropping combos, and a crazy amount of fun. The first thing you'll notice is the combat. It's deep, it's fluid, and it's so satisfying. Each character you control brings something unique to the table. Nero's got his Red Queen sword and his Devil Breakers, mechanical arms that let you pull off all sorts of crazy moves. Dante, on the other hand, brings a whole arsenal of weapons and the ability to switch between them on the fly, which makes for some seriously dynamic fighting. And then there's V, who controls demons to fight for him, which is a completely different vibe. Switching between all these characters keeps the action fresh and exciting. Every fight feels like a chance to get a higher score, see how stylish you can get with your combos, and just have fun pulling off crazy moves. One of the coolest things is how the game rewards you for being creative with your combos. If you're someone who loves to experiment and try new moves, this is the game for you. You can chain together attacks and moves in ways that feel smooth and satisfying. And the best part? You're constantly encouraged to keep upping your game and getting those high-style rankings. It's all about making each battle feel like a performance. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. This one doesn't ease you in, it launches you straight into the chaos. You're rolling through a world that's somehow darker and more twisted than ever, but instead of wallowing in it, the game hands you a big old bag of guns and says, "Fix it." And you do. Loudly. Repeatedly. The gameplay is all about momentum. You're encouraged to be fast, reckless, and just a little bit insane. You can dual-wield completely different weapons, like a shotgun in one hand and a laser cannon in the other, and somehow it works beautifully. It rewards you for charging headfirst into danger, sliding around corners, and blasting enemies before they even know what hit them. It feels chaotic, but also controlled chaos, like a perfectly rehearsed explosion. But what makes it stand out is that it's not just mindless shooting. There's personality here, like actual personality. The characters are larger than life, weird in the best way, and they bounce off each other with this offbeat, sometimes hilarious, sometimes heavy energy. It's like a resistance movement run by total misfits, and somehow they're exactly what the world needs. Exploration is there too, but it's not overwhelming. Between missions, you've got downtime on your base, an actual moving submarine, by the way, where you can chat with your crew, grab some side content, or just soak in the absurdity of it all. It's those little breathers between missions that make the next chaotic shootout hit even harder. Control is a game that mixes action, exploration, and a ton of supernatural chaos. You step into the shoes of Jesse Faden, a character who's trying to piece together the mysteries of a world that seems to constantly shift and change. What really makes the game stand out is how it takes the typical third-person shooter formula and adds these awesome psychic powers that make combat feel way more dynamic. The gameplay is super fun because it lets you get creative with how you approach things. You've got all these telekinetic powers like being able to throw objects around or even lift yourself up and float mid-air. It really spices up the combat, and the way it's mixed with traditional gunplay just makes for this fluid, action-packed experience. There's a cool balance here between blasting away with your weapon and using your abilities to control the environment around you, turning every fight into something more strategic. Another great thing is the way the game handles its environment. The oldest house, where all the action happens, is like a maze that keeps you on your toes. You're never quite sure what you'll encounter next, whether it's an unexpected fight or a hidden room with cool loot. It's a place that feels alive, with everything constantly changing, making exploration feel rewarding. What really helps the whole experience is the way it lets you build your character. There are a ton of ways to customize Jessie's powers, allowing you to focus on things like making her more agile, strengthening her telekinetic abilities, or boosting her defense. Dragon's Dogma 2. It's not just another RPG to add to your backlog. This one's got some serious bite. If you're into exploration, thrilling combat, and a bit of weirdness mixed in, you're in for a treat. First off, the world is huge, like ridiculously huge. You're not just walking around the same few villages or caves, you've got lush forests, dry deserts, and everything in between. And yes, it all feels super alive with day-to-night transitions that actually matter. Things get way more intense when the sun goes down, so you're going to find yourself battling monsters under the eerie glow of the moon. Pretty cool stuff. Now let's talk about combat. This game really delivers when it comes to making you feel like an absolute badass. You're slicing through monsters with your sword, blasting them with magic, or even grabbing onto the backs of huge creatures and fighting them up close. And trust me, it never gets old. It's got that fast-paced, action-packed vibe that keeps you on your toes. And with multiple classes to choose from, there's always a new way to mess things up. Plus, if you're into customizing your playstyle, this game lets you experiment and figure out what feels best. But here's where it gets really fun, the pawn system. Imagine having a bunch of AI companions who are there to help you out, but also learn from their experiences. So if you've been tackling dragons or dealing with super creepy monsters, they pick up on it. Mafia Definitive Edition is a ride through the gritty streets of Lost Heaven, where you get to step into the shoes of Tommy Angelo, a regular guy who gets swept into the wild world of organized crime. No spoilers here, just pure vibes, because this is one game that really pulls you in with its atmosphere. First off, let's talk about the world itself. Lost Heaven is just one of those cities that feels alive. It's not just a backdrop, it's a whole vibe. As you cruise through the city, whether you're in a sleek car or on a classic motorcycle, you'll catch yourself actually enjoying the scenery. The attention to detail in this game is on point. The streets feel real, and driving around might actually have you humming along to the radio even though you're not supposed to. The driving mechanics are a huge part of this. Don't expect the fast-paced, arcade-style driving you might be used to. This one is slower, more about actually handling these classic 1930s vehicles. It might feel a bit different at first, but after a few turns, it's like you've got the wheel in your hands, cruising through a crime thriller. It's nice to see a game pay attention to these details, even when you're just getting from point A to point B. And then there's the whole criminal underworld thing. You start as an average Joe, just trying to get by, but quickly find yourself tangled up in all sorts of mobster shenanigans. As you get more involved, the stakes get higher, and it's clear this isn't just a job anymore. It's a lifestyle. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. It's not your usual action-adventure game. It's a different vibe entirely. You know, it's got that intense, gripping feel where you're always on the edge of your seat. The whole experience really pulls you in, especially with the way it mixes combat and puzzle solving. The puzzles are interesting because they don't just make you think, they make you look at things differently. You're not just moving through levels, you're figuring out how things fit together. It's kind of like solving visual riddles, which is honestly super satisfying when you get them right. It's all tied into the journey, so you're always learning more about the world, even as you're just walking through it. Combat is pretty fun, but also has that layer of tension to it. You're always in a back and forth, trying to dodge, block, or land that perfect hit. It's not about mindless button mashing, though. It's about timing and reading the room. It keeps things fresh and engaging, especially when the enemies start to mix things up. You feel like you're really in the fight, trying to get through it and move on to the next challenge. What's cool about this is the emotional ride. You're not just playing a game, you're really living it out. There's no typical level up and move on kind of thing going on here. Every step feels meaningful, like you're working towards something bigger, and it keeps you hooked throughout. Now let's talk about the gameplay loop. It's not super long, which works really well here. It's tight and doesn't overstay its welcome. Ever wondered what it's like to leap, swing, and battle through the air with the precision of an acrobat? In this game, you're doing exactly that, but with the twist of mastering ancient powers and unraveling secrets from the past. The moment you start moving, the fluidity is there. The kind of platforming that keeps you on your toes and makes you feel like you're on a never-ending adventure. Jumping into the world, you instantly feel the impact of how movement matters. Every action you take in this game is smooth, and that's really what stands out. Whether you're running up walls or sliding under obstacles, it's all about mastering that flow. What takes it to the next level, though, is how each movement ties into combat, where you can time your attacks with your parkour moves, creating this seamless dance between action and exploration. The timing is crucial, but when you nail it, it's incredibly satisfying. Combat is another place where things get exciting. You got your blades ready, but it's not just about hacking away. You've got to think about the rhythm, making sure your attacks are spot on. There's this cool mechanic where your moves fill up a gauge that lets you unleash some powerful special attacks when the time's right. It's all about being strategic, knowing when to block and when to strike. And then there's the exploration. What really pulls you in isn't just the world itself. It's how each area feels interconnected. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. This one is just pure stealth sandbox goodness. It's the kind of game where sneaking around isn't just an option, it's an art form. There's something super satisfying about crawling through the dirt, scoping out a heavily guarded base, and figuring out the perfect way to pick it apart without setting off alarms. And even when things go off the rails, it never feels frustrating. It just turns into controlled chaos in the best way possible. What really stands out is how much freedom it gives you. You're not locked into one style or one path, and if a mission feels too tricky one way, there's always another way to tackle it. Maybe it's dropping in at night, maybe it's using a buddy with unique abilities, or maybe it's calling in some high-tech gear. Everything's so open and flexible that playing around with strategies becomes half the fun. The whole base management system adds another layer that keeps pulling you back in. Sending your crew out on missions, developing new gadgets, upgrading your operations. There's always something to mess with in between field missions. It's got that loop where the more you explore and experiment, the stronger and more equipped you become for the next challenge. And the AI actually plays smart. Enemies start adapting if you keep using the same tricks, which keeps things interesting. Suddenly they're wearing helmets because you went headshot happy last time. Or they're patrolling with flashlights if you've been lurking in the shadows. It makes every encounter feel fresh, like the world is actively pushing back. BioShock. This game isn't just about shooting stuff, though don't worry, there's plenty of that. It's about diving into a world that feels both alive and decayed at the same time. You're dropped into a city beneath the ocean, where everything's gone wrong, and you're left to figure out how to survive while navigating through some seriously twisted environments. The gameplay is a blast, mixing action with strategic thinking. You've got your weapons, of course, but then you also have these plasmids, think of them like superpowers, that add a whole new layer to how you handle situations. Want to zap someone with electricity, or maybe throw them across the room using telekinesis? The possibilities make combat feel fresh and exciting. What really stands out is how you can get creative with these abilities, combining them with your guns or the environment around you to make each encounter feel like a puzzle. And it's not just about action. The world you're exploring is packed with little stories and mysteries that keep you hooked. You'll come across audio logs, abandoned rooms, and bits of history that really flesh out the city's downfall. It's a game that invites you to explore, not just for loot, but to unravel the pieces of what's left behind. Plus, those moments when you find something new, they hit differently, like discovering a hidden treasure in a place that's falling apart at the seams. What makes it even more interesting is the moral choices. You're not just a passive observer. You get to shape the direction of the game. Yakuza 0 is an absolute blast, mixing the best of open-world action with a ton of cool side activities, all while delivering a seriously compelling experience. Set in the late 80s, you get to dive into the lives of two pretty iconic characters, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima, as they rise through the ranks of the Japanese underworld. But what's really fun about this game is that it doesn't just make you fight your way through gritty streets, it gives you so much more to do along the ways. Let's start with the combat, which is easily one of the standout features. There's a whole bunch of different fighting styles, so you can switch things up mid-battle to suit the situation. Kiryu has his brawler, beast, and rush styles, letting you either go for a straightforward heavy-hitting approach or something quicker and more agile. Majima's got his own set with Thug, Slugger, and Breaker, making every fight feel fresh. The best part is that you get to mix and match these styles depending on what's going down. It keeps combat feeling fluid and exciting. On top of that, there's a whole character progression system where you invest money into leveling up your abilities. And we're not talking about just the cash you earn from street fights, but money you make through all sorts of activities around the city. So if you're doing well at the businesses or even out on the streets helping people out, it all ties into your growth. It's a nice touch that makes the world feel connected in a way that keeps you engaged. Monster Hunter World kicks things off with an exciting premise. You're hunting massive creatures, each more fearsome than the last, all while exploring an incredibly detailed world. It's not just about slashing away with your weapon. There's strategy, preparation, and a bit of patience involved. You've got to get the right gear, pick the right weapon, and make sure you understand the behavior of the creatures you're going after. Gameplay-wise, it's got a real sense of flow. You'll spend your time crafting, gathering materials, and scouting out the perfect spot to take down your target. But it's not just all about the hunt. There's a lot of exploration that goes into it too. From dense forests to desert landscapes, each area has its own feel and is filled with its own unique challenges. The combat is a highlight here, with each weapon feeling unique, offering a whole range of playstyles. Whether you're going in for fast, nimble attacks or prefer the heftier, slower hits, there's a weapon that fits your style. You're constantly adjusting, learning new tricks, and adapting to what the monsters throw your way. One of the coolest features of this game is how it encourages teamwork. You're not just hunting solo. You've got a team of hunters working alongside you, and that coordination can make or break a mission. If you're feeling extra bold, you can even go it alone, though you'll definitely find it more challenging. The world itself is full of life and surprises. Portal 2 is one of those games that doesn't just make you think, it makes you think in new and creative ways, pushing your brain into a fun kind of overdrive. Right off the bat, you're thrown into a world of puzzles that get more inventive the deeper you go. And we're talking about puzzles that aren't just about figuring out how to get from point A to point B. These are puzzles that bend space and time. Well, kind of, with portals that let you teleport around the environment. The beauty of this game is in how the puzzles start simple and slowly ramp up, but in a way that always feels like you're learning something new. It never gets frustrating, just challenging in the best way. You start using the classic portal mechanics, shooting 2 portals to transport between them, but then, just when you think you've got the hang of it, new mechanics get introduced. Enter things like repulsion gel, which lets you bounce off walls, and propulsion gel that makes you run faster. And that's just the start. Hardlight bridges and excursion funnels spice things up too, giving you all these tools to play around with as you figure out how to navigate through each room. It's not just about the puzzles, though. The game has a fantastic cast of characters, all of whom have these distinct personalities that really make the whole experience feel alive. Whether it's the ever-sarcastic GLaDOS, the bumbling Wheatley, or the eccentric Cave Johnson, each character adds a layer of humor and intrigue to the journey. Sniper Elite 4 brings the classic mix of tactical gameplay and heart-pounding action to the table with a World War II backdrop. If you love a good challenge, this one definitely delivers. Picture yourself sneaking around massive Italian landscapes, setting traps, and taking out enemies from miles away with precision shots. Whether you're in a dense forest or a sunlit town, there's always something new to discover, and the world feels alive with opportunities for sneaky tactics or all-out action. The game really shines in the way it lets you approach each mission. No need to rush in guns blazing. There's plenty of room for patience and strategy, which is a nice change of pace. You can take your time planning the perfect shot, adjusting for wind, gravity, and distance. It's this mix of thinking and action that makes every successful shot feel so rewarding. And speaking of shots, the X-ray kill cam is back, and it's just as satisfying as ever. Watching that bullet travel through an enemy, hitting just the right spot, yeah, it never gets old. It's like the game's way of saying, you nailed it, in the most dramatic fashion. The environments are huge and diverse, giving you plenty of space to figure out the best way to approach your objective. Want to go in quietly and stealthy? Great. Prefer to create chaos and watch the enemy scramble? That's an option too. And when you're not sniping, there's a variety of weapons and gadgets at your disposal. Kena Bridge of Spirits is a game that really knows how to pull you into its world. You're in for a journey that mixes the joy of exploration with the thrill of combat, all while solving puzzles that'll keep you engaged. The adventure is filled with charm, with Kena, the main character, acting as your guide through a world that feels alive and full of surprises. The game's core is all about getting your hands dirty, whether it's battling enemies, uncovering secrets, or navigating through environments that constantly challenge you. The combat is satisfying, nothing too complex, but it doesn't need to be. With a staff in hand that evolves into a bow, you get the perfect balance between hacking your way through enemies and figuring out how to use your abilities to solve the environment's puzzles. One thing that really stands out is the rot. These little creatures are absolutely adorable, but they also serve a practical purpose. They help you in combat, clear obstacles, and even unlock new areas. There's just something about collecting these little guys and watching them evolve that keeps you invested in the game. Plus, the customization aspect adds a fun layer to the experience. What's really cool about the game is how it encourages you to slow down and pay attention to everything around you. The world is filled with secrets, hidden items, and challenges that reward careful exploration.